I worked for a transportation company. Janny was a human resource manager, so I called on her to
one of my business.
One of your business. Right? One of our dear friends had set this up a long time before. You have to meet. You two are going to be perfect. That day I thought, that is a really neat...
She tricked us into it. I didn't know it was a setup, and he didn't know it was a setup either.
She's good.
And she told him we were all going to meet in my office at 4 o'clock and talk business. And so he showed up at 4 o'clock, and she didn't show up for another hour. So we had to kill time, basically, for an hour.
The Wyant side of my family, the story within the family goes as there were 6 Wyant brothers in the 1700s that came over on merchant vessels to the Baltimore and Virginia area, and then they scattered from there. The Davis side, my mother's side, came over from Great Britain and were through Ellis Island, probably in the late 1800s.
Grandmother on my mother's side and her entire family came over from England, quickly followed by my grandfather, who came over specifically with the idea of marrying my grandmother. He had been in love with her in England and followed her. My grandmother came via Australia from Wales to the United States. And she had been one of 9 children. She was the oldest of the 9 children, and most of the family immigrated over with her. My grandfather, he was here forever, but apparently his family had originally come over from Sweden. To Cape Cod, the whole family, and my grandmother went with us. And I remember sitting on the bed and watching her unpack her clothes. And she used to roll her clothes in tissue paper to prevent them from wrinkling. So she had this itty bitty tiny suitcase filled with clothes wrapped in tissue paper. And then when she finished unpacking, we took a beautiful walk in the woods, and I remember climbing over trees that had fallen down and having her explain everything to me. And so that was definitely one of my absolute
Mine would have
favorite
been,
memories.
We lived in the country till I was 16, and our summertime event was usually, of the 8 children, 4 or 5 each year were about of the age group to do this. We go to the woods every day and spend the entire day in the woods. We had a lot of woods. And we knew where all the swinging vines were, and all the berries, and all the nuts. And seldom even came home for lunch, because we would eat there and play. And then the second part of the childhood memories that were the greatest were the second part of the day, when my neighborhood kids who lived on farms would be done with their chores. We'd play baseball until it was so dark you couldn't see anything but just a shadow coming at you. It looked like a baseball. Then you knew it was time to go in. But those were my 2 favorites.
My number 1 piece of advice would be to follow Jesus, trust that they're loved by God, provides guidance for absolutely everything else you would do in life.
Been a lot smarter a lot sooner, and have been able to guide my children in the way of saying, seek first the kingdom of God and all things will be added to you. The first thing you have to know is that everything in your life is spiritual. So you take the same principles as an employee or a spouse. It's all the same principles, so that'll change your life in such a drastic way.